You're just taking your time, just chilling. I don't understand. Why does it take so long?
Dear world, you name it, we cover it from the world of the singles to the behind the scenes of the greatest movie ever filmed, called Marriage. We dig into everything from dating 101. Why won't they commit? It's complicated. I can't do it if it's the three of us. They're a good person, but I'm not attracted to them in that way, too. They really didn't disclose who they were before I said I do. How do I do this if they can't keep a job? The bills are paid, but the bedroom is suffering. Did I marry you or did I marry your family? Because we can only take care of us. Let's open up our marriage. Why do I have to buy into your beard gang illusion? You could have told me you were on the down low and we could have remained friends and not married. And last but not least, did you marry me or your pastor? Have we gotten your attention yet? If so, tune into Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio.
Hey, did you just change? Did you just cut that off while I told that?
Yeah, you don't need to keep jamming. You don't need to keep jamming. Go ahead and get to the point. You know.
Really? That's how we do.
Somebody like, man, let me keep on jamming, man, for the show starts.
Like, man, that joint was hitting. He was hitting the stride. He was hitting the stride on that.
Yeah, man.
Well, okay.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Unique Perspectives Love Talk Radio. I'm your host, Charles Dixon, and I am here with Mr. Adam Ford, my co-host. How are you, sir?
What's up, fam? Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm good. I'm finally getting over this little international cold that I caught while I was in Cancun.
I'm trying to tell you, yeah.
Finally getting over it, but I'm doing
somebody's over. That's good, man. It's like it's a lot of I noticed like just as I move around, I don't care if I'm going to the store or wherever, everywhere somebody coughing, somebody. I be wanting to say, listen, if you in this position and you got somebody else at home that can help you, stay at home.
Yeah.
Don't keep coming all out into the public of nasty colds and all kinds of stuff.
Right. I mean, the thing of it is though, everybody's getting hit everywhere. I got people at church that's been hit. People in my family, they got hit by bugs, colds, whatever, man. I'm just like, Lord, I'm about to just quarantine myself in my room and just stay there locked in. Slip me some food under the door. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, this zone is crazy right here, man. So make sure you stay up on your multivitamins, take some extra vitamin C, get some airborne, drink plenty of water, stay hydrated, man, and just, Lord have mercy.
Stay out of it. I'm tell you.
For real.
Right. So today, I thought it was a good time because this is probably the last weekday in the month of December before the new year. That this will be our last show of the year. So I know it's the holidays, but I was like, let's just try to squeeze this one in and kind of end the year off on a good note and leave it at that. So
are we sure that it's good? Are we sure that anyway? Well, I guess
just got to make sure all the issues, the things brought back from Cancun. But anyway, another story. No, but anyway, seriously, it's like so I thought about something that's always been in our faces. So I feel as people that are in, whether relationships, marriages, dating, whatever the case. And I said to myself, I don't think a lot of people have the conversation where they say, hey, let's sit down and discuss things that we consider boundaries. I'm not talking about expectations, right? Because when I think of expectations from me, I think those are the things we're expecting out of the relationship, out of the marriage, whatever the case. Okay. Your own personal boundaries within the relationship are personal to you. So both people can sit and say, these are the things that I really don't like. These are the things that I don't care for, and I don't care for someone to try on me, say to me, reposition with me with this, whatever that is, and go from there. And I said to myself, I don't think a lot of people sit down and have that conversation like that. I think we mostly address it when things happen. If somebody's offended, somebody said the wrong thing or this, that, and the other, then we sit down and we'll be like, look, don't ever say that again or don't do that again. But I said, how many of us could benefit from having that conversation from the onset, and then seeing if both parties respect one another's wishes as you go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, yeah, and that's again, I think it's important that when we're having this conversation, that we explicitly define, what requests are, what expectations are, and what boundaries are, because I think we often get these confused with one another, which is easy to do.
Yeah.
So if we're definitive in how we're talking about it, if we're explicit and specific in terms of what we're talking about, I think it'll benefit the conversation overall in terms of us helping us to understand what our boundaries are and how to establish those things.
Nice. So just as a quick short overview before you go into the read is basically boundaries are defined. It says setting boundaries in a relationship means clearly communicating your personal limits and needs to your partner, establishing what behaviors are acceptable and unacceptable to you, thus creating a healthy space for both individuals to maintain their autonomy and self-respect within the relationship. Yeah. And so before we go deeper into this, today's topic is the unspoken language of boundaries, what it teaches, what it allows. So we can go from there.
All right. So here we go. The unspoken language of boundaries, what it teaches, what it allows. As the year comes to an end, it is befitting to speak on a topic that's quite vital to the healthy development of any relationship. The establishment of boundaries or personal gate guards actually governs how you will or won't be treated. We often underestimate the residual acts from fallen boundaries, which are reflected in our relationships when we fail to show ourselves the proper self-respect we deserve. Without standards and boundaries, you're as vulnerable as prey caught in the crosshairs of the most skilled snipers. What am I saying? If you don't stand for yourself, you'll fall for everyone else. Help us dissect the many variables of maintaining proper boundaries in our relationships.
Yeah. All right. So when I think about this, okay, let's say this is also befitting because it's the holidays. I can remember many moons ago when as a kid you ready to get up under the Christmas tree and see what your parents got you, your toy list, right? So One of my favorite toys back in those days were the race car tracks, the Tyco, the AFX, Aurora, all those ones from those days where you'd be like, I want this, I wanted all these race car tracks. So if I compare that to this, try to compare that to this topic, I look at it like this. When you open up that box, most of the times our eyes are going to go to where the car is at and where the track's at, right? Yeah. But also what's in that box are guardrails.
Right.
And the guardrails are to be placed, like when you connecting the tracks and making whatever shape your racetrack is, they give you guardrails for the turns, right? They're not really for the straightaway, they're for the turns. The audibles, the ebbs and flows, right? And so I thought about that in the sense of, there were times where I just got so thirsty to just set the track up, and you set the track up and you hook it up and you plug it in and you go to using the controllers. I forgot that part. The controllers are in the box, right? So the controller, so when you get to going, you go with it, and with no guardrails, it's going to take off fast, and when it hits the curve, it's going airborne.
Right.
Nothing is going to keep it within the confines of some sort of framework. So I compare that over into the relationship world, and I look at how many of us open up ourselves to each other, and we just see the tracks ahead that we want to travel with them, right? And we're not thinking about those guardrails that are also there to be placed, right? To help protect it. But we go on and run on as it is. And when we get to going, when these things rise up and these crazy scenarios approach us and happen, we find ourselves off the track. It's crazy. What's going on? You disrespected me. These are my back. You did, whatever. So And I stop and say, well, did we do the proper protection up front? Did we did we have that guardrail conversation?
Yeah.
Did we talk about our boundaries?
Yeah.
You know, the things that protect us, our personal being, our personal mental health, all those kind of things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think it's important that, especially at the beginning of a relationship, that you are considering to be serious, and you're thinking about making a commitment to this particular person. That it's vitally important that you establish those demarcation lines, if you will, that will not be crossed. The type of treatment and behavior that you are or are not willing to accept within the parameters of your relationship.
Yeah.
Because again, if you don't do that, then that person really doesn't know. And let me just say this too. It's not that they want to act in a way that wouldn't be displeasing to you, but rather they don't know what is and what is not acceptable to you. So when they begin to do or act in a certain way that may or may not be acceptable to you, how do they know what the boundaries are? How do they know what lines to cross or not cross? Because there has not been any disclosure as to what the guardrails are. You know what I'm saying? And again, I think often when we get into a relationship, especially when a relationship is new, when it's fresh, we're all excited about it. We're excited about being with this person, and we're infatuated with them, and we can't stop looking in their eyes, and we can't get off the phone with them, and we just love spending time with them on a regular basis. That we haven't really taken the time out within all of that newness to really have a serious conversation as to what is and what is not acceptable within this relationship. And so when that person begins to do something that we reject, then we have a tendency to, I guess, be disappointed because, again, we have not told them. Now, they're acting in this particular way, but they don't know.
Yeah.
They have no clue. And I think, how many of us can really admit, especially at the beginning of a relationship, when somebody has done something? Yeah. I'm having some flashbacks in my own mind. But somebody, look, you may have done something or not have done something, right, and the other person did not necessarily, they weren't happy with it. Let's put it like that. But again, you had no idea because there wasn't a conversation about this that had happened already.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us, again, we operate under this guise of an assumption that everything's going to be okay. My boo can't do nothing wrong until they actually do something wrong. They piss you off. They make you disappointed. And now y'all like, what's going on? What's happening? You know what I'm saying?
You ever notice how, what I'm going to go into after this is, you notice how at work, let's just say where you work currently, and you notice how when you all have a new addition to your team, right? A new person, they come from another law firm or what have you. Right. Here they come. Right. Now, there's always that time where you may be, somebody might say, we need you to sit with Adam because he's going to show you the ropes. He's going to show you the company way that we do it, right? Mm-hmm. So the person sits with you, and then you may have said a few things to them, and then when they go off to go doing them, you notice this is a little rogue. I don't think we discussed this. This right here is a little different. And the first thing they're going to say was, see, over there at my other firm, we did this.
Right.
We did this. So over here, y'all a little too tight. We used to do that. So do I have to do it this way? Or can I do it with the way that's easy for me? So when I think of that, I think of people in relationships try to bring their comfortable cultures over into a new relationship, because what they say to the person worked. They could have cussed the person out and the person thought it was endearing, right? They could have been fighting toxic and they thought it was endearing, but when they come to you, you're like, no, this ain't that. So this is why people need to have those conversations to identify the culture gaps. Mm-hmm. What you're used to, what I'm used to, what don't fly with me, what don't, might not fly with you, and go from there. Instead of just kind of, I think we often just go into relationships and assume people have the kind of behavior and respect. to give you at the right, to administer at the right times. But a lot of times they don't. You know, people make sure you have to earn respect to a degree. No one's not just giving it to you.
Right.
You earn it from them. So, you know.
But you know what though, what's interesting about it, something that occurred to me when it comes to relationships, particularly in the early days. And I don't know if we have forgotten how to do this, or we're just not aware, or maybe we've never been taught how to do this. But I think it's important, particularly in the early stages of that relationship, that we engage in learning and listening, that we engage in looking and paying attention to certain cues.
Yeah.
And so instead of assuming a certain thing, I'm clued into and I'm cued into who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who you are, trying to put together how this dynamic is going to work. But if, again, like you said, Charles, if I'm bringing in old habits, old behaviors, old dispositions, old mindsets, and I bring that old stuff into a new situation, 9 times out of 10, the old stuff is not going to be compatible with the new stuff because it came from a pre-existing situation.
That's it.
And so this situation is not agreeable with the old situation. So there has to be an adjustment. There has to be a change. Again, I must submit to you that if we're looking, if we're listening, if we're paying attention to the cues of the person that we're with, we're going to begin to realize that some of the old things that we did are no longer agreeable with my new situation.
That's it.
So now I have to be in a position where I begin to develop a new understanding as to the person that I'm with now. And it's, what's funny too, and it's funny that you brought up the whole job situation, because that is so apropos and applicable. Okay, so I've been on my job for a number of years now, so I'm on the senior level, and so a lot of times I find I have to, like, not necessarily train, but I'm correcting and I'm fixing and I'm adjusting and I'm helping newer people to come in to understand the processes of the office in terms of our workflow. And often, a lot of times, particularly if you get a person that has an idea or knows how certain things to be done, they know from their previous place of employment.
Right.
But they don't know how we do it.
Correct.
They know how they did it in their old place where they used to be, but they don't know how we do it. And there might be some similarities in terms of our processes, but they aren't necessarily identical to what you did. And so now you have to be, as the new one coming in, you have to be open to a new cultural understanding of the new dynamic so that you can begin to adjust and assimilate in the new place. So that you become acclimated. There's a word for you. You become acclimated to the new situation, to the new environment. Man, I can't tell you how many times I've had to have discussions with people about what they're doing. And I'm trying to get them to understand, okay, I understand why you did this, but I need you to understand how we do it.
We do it,
Because what you did was for where you were.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for where you are. And so now you got to recalibrate your mind. You got to recalibrate your mind to understand that the culture that I was in, I'm not in anymore. I'm in a new place. And so now I have to adjust. Lord have mercy. I have to adjust what I'm doing so that I fit where I am now.
Yeah.
So if I was in church, it would be like this. How many of us in here are stuck in what we used to be, not realizing where we are? I'm going to leave it right there.
No, that's for real. Many of us, like you said, people, especially as people mature and get older, they find themselves more reluctant to shift cultural behaviors. It's like, I'm used to this. And the thing is, we'll hold on to that behavior even with a record of failed relationships. We still hold on to it. I mean, you could just easily say, you should be able to say to yourself, well, you might make a point because so and so told me this and so told me that too, and I'm still doing it. Right. So you say to yourself, but we want you to accept the fact that it takes a lot of work, Adam, to shift my culture over here to what y'all talking about.
Wow.
This comfortably works for me in my habitat, right? So I can get them and bag them back in just like this. So why do I got to change now, right? And so, but go ahead.
No, because I was going to say it. Again, this thing is because it's really fresh in my mind. Because it's literally what I do all day for the most part. It's literally what I do all day. That they bring over all of this stuff that they had. Here's the thing. Some of the stuff might be good.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff might be useful for the new place.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're trying to introduce this stuff to a place that already has an established flow.
That's it.
This place already has an established flow in terms of how the work is supposed to work. What you're doing is disruptive to the present flow.
Yeah.
It's not working because we already have an established means and dynamic by which we do what we do. You're bringing in the old stuff. You're bringing in your old habits, your old attitudes, your old positions, your old mentality is disruptive to what's happening now. Now, yesterday it worked for where you were, but it doesn't work for where you are in the present. You got past issues, but you want to bring them to the present situation?
Yeah.
No, sir. No, man. That's not, that doesn't work.
Yeah. And that's why having that, I guess, come to Jesus boundary call is important because and you were talking about, like you're saying, you coming into a culture that already works, right? And trying to change it. But in the form of a relationship, everybody feels their culture works. Them. So it's not like you can come over and say, well, exactly what you say we should do, we're going to go ahead and adopt that. Most people are going to come and say, well, for me, this works for me. And the other person's going to be like, well, for me, this works for me. So you have that boundary conversation just to kind of initially see how close you are in proximity or how far off you are in your thoughts about boundaries and how it looks to the other person. Because someone may say something to you that's way left. You may be like, well, all right, I didn't think about that, but whatever. And then somebody may say we're closely aligned.
Right.
So, but you got to have that conversation instead of, I think many of us are imploding in these relationships and exploding because we're discovering disrespect along the way. We're discovering neglect along the way. We're discovering things that we may have had an idea what they were from the onset had we had that talk. But now what's happening is we're going along to get along. And then the minute someone strikes you to the left and wrong, oh, you got me messed up. Hold on. Wait a minute. Give us a whole conversation. And then, people get offended. Now they're looking at you sideways. You're not who I thought. All that kind of stuff. So you could have had that conversation initially to kind of address it.
Yeah. And I think here's the other point, too, I think that we need to think about. And that is the fact that particularly, like you said, when we get into a new relationship, we have to realize that this is something new. Like you said, there isn't anything established as of yet, but we're working to establish the dynamics of our relationships. We're working to establish our interfaces and how we interact and exchange with one another, which means it really can't always be all about me and what I want and what I need to do. That within the context of the relationship, within the parameters of that conversation, there has to be consideration for the other person. How do you see us doing this? And I think more often than not, we don't think about the other person. We want to do what we want to do because this works for me. This is comfortable for me. This is convenient for me. But at some point, if the relationship is really going to work, if we're going to establish a wholesome dynamic between each other, then I have to think about you. I have to think about what works for you. I have to be flexible enough to be able to accommodate you in a way that helps both of us out for the establishment of the relationship. Otherwise, this just turns into a one night stand or maybe a fling if it lasts maybe a month or two. But other than that, it burns out because there is no consideration for this. I'm not considering you in terms of where you are and what you need and how I need to be flexible and versatile with you. It's got to be the both of us being willing to want to do for one another so that both of us get the benefit out of this, not just one of us. And some of us are in relationships where only one person is reaping the benefit, but that's another conversation for another day.
I agree. Demetra had said something earlier where she said sometimes you may not even recognize it's a boundary line. I mean, a boundary until the line's been crossed. Now, I thought about that to say, does that mean we're not talking enough to discover it? I mean, think about it. Are we not communicating effectively enough? If something can flare you up that strong and you have not divulged it, whose fault is it? Because think about it. Like, let's just say something is said in the conversation. Excuse me, take me home. Just like that. You like,
right, just like that. Right.
But like I said, unless you would have divulged to me, like, think about this. When you go to new medical providers for whatever it's a situation, doctors, whatever, you ever notice they give you the sheet that reveals your history.
Right.
They give you the checklist to talk about. So have you ever had surgery in the past 6 months, in a year? Have you had this? This is the equivalent in the relationship world. The person is like, okay, I'm with you. I'm digging you. We're doing this. We're moving ahead. But just for my mental sanity and so that I can navigate you correctly, have you had surgery in the last 3 to 6 months? Have you had trauma? You know what I'm saying? Have you had something that severely injured you mentally that I can potentially trigger in my navigating with you without, unbeknownst to me, I discover something and you what? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, I'm just going through my own memories and my own relationships or whatever. And I think there's something to what Demetra has said in terms of not necessarily knowing that that's a boundary. Yeah. And I think here's the thing. So as much as we try to communicate with one another, if your lines of communication are open and they're good, then you are having a regular dialogue that occurs on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But then, Charles, there are some things in your conversation that you may not necessarily touch on. You may or may not be aware of a particular thing that may or may not trigger you. It's not until you get to that situation that a certain thing occurs or doesn't occur that flips your switch and now it's on and popping. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just thinking about my own personal situation. It's not until you actually in that situation that you realize and recognize, oh, this is a boundary.
Yeah.
I did not realize this fence was electrified. I didn't realize this fence had barbed wire on it. I didn't realize you had a whole defensive perimeter around this particular thing. And I unknowingly crossed over into no man's land, into the demilitarized zone. And now I'm being fired upon with friendly fire because I didn't realize this was a boundary.
Yeah.
And I know I sound crazy, but I'm talking about a specific event that occurred in my life.
Right.
That I did not know was a boundary. But I quickly found out that it was a boundary.
Yeah. And so you got to think of it like, even in the work world, nowadays, there's a lot of conversation around the skill set of, you'll see in job requirements, they'll say things like, continuous improvement. Is that what they'll say? So basically, in situations like this where you are walking up on something where you're discovering a line that's crossed and you didn't realize it. Those are the moments where you have to stop, drop, and roll and address it.
Okay.
And put that into the continuous improvement category. And let's discover this. I'm sorry, I didn't realize this. Is there anything else I need to know? And so while we're on this subject, I've had something similar I need to divulge to you. Something to continually do so that you keep on and you can, avoid this going forward. Otherwise, it's almost like nowadays in relationships, it's almost like you walking in a minefield.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
You don't know. You walking on something you don't know. You saying something. Or what's even worse is if you're not doing something that you didn't realize was an expectation.
Exactly.
So, and that could be a whole bomb in itself. And so we learn ourselves as we grow. Because heck, I even notice as I navigate through different things, sometimes I realize I find myself getting a little more offended by certain things. And I said to myself, I didn't do enough talking. Or that person probably wouldn't have tried that, right? Or
Okay.
or whatever, or text that or whatever. So you say to yourself over time in life, you can get into arguments. A simple argument could be a misunderstanding about this, a mishandling of communication. Oh, you were quiet today. You this, whatever the case is, right? These things come up. And sometimes those exchanges in those moments can rub you away, especially when you know your intention. That's when it gets offensive because your intention wasn't mysterious or anything risque. But when it comes across that way, and when you are quote unquote fired upon from it, you're like, well, dang, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah. I get that, and I think I'm on. So you're on the knowing and disclosing side of the argument. You're saying we know this, then we should say something, and we absolutely should. I think I'm on the other side of this. I'm on the unknowing side of this, and you crossed it because I think a lot of times that's how we end up in some of the craziest arguments and fights that we've ever been in, because we did or didn't do something that the person, for whatever reasons, has gone off on us, and they themselves may or may not know the reason why. And that's because of the fact that we have not had that conversation, because this particular situation has not occurred until now.
Yeah.
And I think here's the thing, and you may or may not like this, but I think it's a reality that we're all going to have to face. The reality is, if we're with that person long enough, at some point in time, they are going to cross the boundary.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's be honest. Let's be transparent. At some point in time, they are going to cross that boundary. Now, having said that, well, you know what? Now I got a Bible verse to go with it. Jesus said, hey, Bruce, Jesus said, offenses will come. You will be offended. Guaranteed. Your boundary will be crossed. Guaranteed. It's going to happen. It is, as Thanos said, inevitable. It's going to happen. Okay. So I need you to embrace that fact. I need you to hold on to that fact. I need you to make that fact a reality in your life. At some point in time, somebody's going to cross my boundary and make me mad.
Yeah.
Bam. That's it. Okay. Deal with it. Here's where I'm going with this. From the moment they cross the boundary to the moment that you are mad and pissed off about them crossing the boundary, what you do next determines your future. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to allow that boundary to completely obliterate the relationship? Are you going to allow that offense to completely just destroy what you have been building over these last several months? Are you going to allow that frustration that you feel to make you give up and quit and never want to get back into another relationship again? Or are you going to be mature, grow up a little bit, just grow up a little bit, not just a little bit, have a little bit of grace when the offense comes and say, okay, you know what? We need to have an adult conversation about why I am mad.
That's good. Yeah.
And I think again, we can't completely avoid the fight. It's going to happen. But the fight has a purpose. The fight reveals why I'm frustrated. The fight opens up and discloses why I am feeling the way that I'm feeling. It creates a form of conversation that allows me to be transparent with you to help you to understand where I am. So that from this point forward, from the point forward from where I crossed over the boundary, now we can begin to build a mechanism or a device by which we no longer do the thing, or better yet, we come to a place where I no longer am frustrated by this crossing of a boundary.
Yes.
So now I'm expanding my emotional awareness to the point where I'm no longer going to allow people crossing this boundary to manipulate me into a complete frustration where I can no longer deal with people.
Wow.
Yeah. You see what you see what I did right
here? Yeah. So yes. All right. So in that same aspect, now let's steer. So now you got the motor running. Let's steer this into the direction of the key aspects of setting the boundaries. So let's set that framework up. All right. So number one, we have to ask ourselves, are we identifying our needs? Okay. Understand what is important to you in the relationship, including your emotional, physical, and personal space requirements. Okay. Number two, clear communication. Express your boundaries directly and assertively to your partner using I statements to explain how certain actions make you feel. Number three, it's only two more. Emotional boundaries. Define what level of emotional intimacy you are comfortable with, including how you want to be treated and what behaviors are not acceptable. Number four, time boundaries. Setting limits on how much time you want to spend together, and maintaining personal time for individual activities. And last but not least, material boundaries. Establishing expectations regarding finances, sharing possessions, and personal belongings. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we a lot of us sit here and we feel a way about things that we have not set up the proper framework for. If we're honest, a lot of us get mad and frustrated and angry with people who we have not yet clearly defined who we are to. Because when you clearly unpack yourself and you break down those non-negotiables or those lines that you don't want crossed, or how you view certain perspectives on things, it gives the other person a chance to say, oh, I see. I didn't know you felt that way. So it gives them a chance to have pause when they are treating you or a certain way or not. But what we do today is, because we are either divorcees, we've been single forever, or we've been in these relationships or whatever, we just assume we know what you need and don't need, or what's right and what's not right, and what's respectful and what's not. And so we come on these situations and we walk on these landmines, and we walk away calling a relationship and the person toxic or narcissist when you clearly haven't defined who you are and what you want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No. Yeah. And again, I've been having flashbacks since the show started from stuff that's happened between me and Maria. And here's the thing that I realize about this. Here's the thing. The thing is if I had never, or if she had never crossed certain boundaries, if we had never had certain heated discussions, if we had never had arguments the way that we had them, then either one of us, we would have never known about that particular thing. And I think we need to kind of like reimagine what it means to disagree with somebody. I think we need to kind of think about this Yes, baby. Very heated.
He messed up. Now the show is over. That's it.
Right. Show no. Yeah, I think we need to reimagine and we have a different perspective on the discussions that we have had, because without those heated discussions, I would have never known certain things about her. Let me put that to the side and just address this thing real quick. Let's talk about. I want to talk about arguments real quick.
Okay.
I think sometimes we've been given this idea that an argument is a negative thing, that an argument is a detrimental thing, that we have gone through great pains to avoid arguments.
Yeah.
We've gone through great pains to keep the peace, if you will. We've gone through great pains to keep it as quiet as possible. But I'm coming to understand that an argument is necessary if we are going to advance the further development of our relationship. If I don't have an argument, then I don't know what makes you upset. If I don't have an argument, then I don't understand what frustrates you. If I don't have an argument with you, I don't get where the boundary is. And so if I never know where the boundary is, I keep crossing over it. But we've never talked about this boundary, and I keep crossing over it. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, but because we don't have an argument, I never get an opportunity to address the thing that makes you upset. Yeah. Arguments are necessary assets to our relationship. If we don't have an argument, and again, I want you to understand, I'm not talking about a fight. I'm talking about a discussion, a disagreement where we have a different perspective of the same thing. If we're not arguing about this thing, then we're not really talking about the real thing that has made me upset. We haven't gotten to the core of the issue, because when you argue about something, what you're talking about is, okay, this matters to me, and this is why this matters to me. You see what I'm saying? And so that argument is absolutely essential. We have to have a discussion about my boundary and what it means to me and what we're going to do about this boundary. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, something you brought up a second ago, which takes me to mind, and I'm talking about you and Maria, but I'm not talking about you, Maria. But the point where you said about many of us, I'm trying not to preach. No, I'm just kidding. Many of us, we like so much to keep the peace, right? That we lacked the ability sometimes to seize those moments to get the right discovery from one another. Especially when we're entertaining new situations, new marriages, relationships, engagements, whatever. We tend to try to keep the best game face that gets us through the 4 quarters to win, right? But at the same time, that's why coaches dig in the tails of those players before the game starts, so we can avoid having fights on the field. So when we walk down the line and we are crossing in these minefields, you can say to yourself, now, why'd you step on that? Then we talk about that before the game started. We told you that these are potentially planted out there, so you had to run out there hot-headed and fall on it, right? So a lot of times when we fall into these arguments where we get heated, it's a lot of times because one of or both of us were too prideful to go a little deeper and discover those things and have those conversations that we know, because all of us know without you having to twist my arm and stick something and make me say, ouch, I already know I don't like it.
Right.
So I can tell you I don't like that. Right. I don't care for this. And I don't need to have to discover it on the road, and we're on a road trip and you say someone and I look like I'm the type of person, once I'm lost, Adam, in the car, we could turn the car around and go back. Because I'm we say something crazy. Let's just turn around. But anyway, what? But these are the things that you have to discuss early, because if you don't, they will come. And sometimes when they come, they can come at costly moments. And those moments, even in marriages, I have seen people that if they don't have the right kind of conviction towards covenant, when something crosses that line, a boundary or some unforeseen scenario pops up, oh, I didn't sign up for this. Well, woman, you've been married with this person for 9 years. That's okay. I was married to Joe for 20, and I was married to so-and-so, and I don't do that. And they will leave, right?
Yeah.
People, they'll get mad and leave. So obviously the goal is to not leave, but the goal is to, how can we properly maneuver through this in the most healthy way possible, even having those painful boundary line discussions and revelational conversations of our pain points.
Yeah.
Perfect example. At work, when we are doing what we're called managing legal solutions. So basically, we make sure all of the team, the corporation, organization has the latest, greatest, more efficient software they're working from, right? But before we can arrive at that point, we have to have a stakeholder conversation. That's the person who owns what they want. So when we have that conversation, that's when we unveil all of the things that are broken. What's broken about your process today?
Right.
And how do you envision it being improved? So I'm going to listen to you. And when you tell me that, I can interpret back to you the things that I have in the tool belt that can possibly help it. Yeah. And then we can discuss a way to fix it. So again, many of us need to have those stakeholder conversations about these boundaries and these things we need to set so that we can get to a place of resolve and stop kind of go. A lot of us, we go along to get along because the optics look good. The optics of us look nice, and everybody's but underneath it all, we don't know much or nothing about each other because we just so busy doing graduation poses and walking in white waves in the car. But the real deal is we don't like each other. A lot of times, being honest, I've been in situations where I was sitting there, but I didn't like the person.
Wow.
I didn't really tell them how I really felt about them. I was in it, but I was like, I don't care for you. Because that's when you let that resentment build up to a degree. You've heard a lot of things that have crossed that line or offensive to you, and you just be like, all right. And in your mind, you're like, yeah, this is not going to last long. You know what I'm saying? And so I always say this, to give yourself a chance in relationships, in marriages, and the things that we all want to complain and fight about or be happy about, you got to first do this. You got to say, have my standards been set? Have I sat down and said, these are my standards?
Right.
This is it. Give the person the chance to have feedback about it. You both talk and whatever. Get through that. Secondly, have my relationship boundaries been enforced? Have I made them clear? Right. And then after you have the standard conversation, the boundary conversation, now you can measure expectations.
Okay.
Without those two, you can't come making up willy-nilly expectations just because you want to, in your life, this is how I envision, I want this to go this way, Bruce. Who cares if we have not had the discussion? Everybody wants something. All of us used to want something for Christmas. And sometimes we got it. And sometimes our parents gave us what they could afford. Sometimes the relationship can't afford what you want.
That's true.
In that moment, we don't have the emotional fortitude built up yet. We don't have the stamina muscle yet to afford what you're asking for right now. So we need to wait. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to have that person patient enough to trust you to wait until the relationship can process forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that I mean, that's going to take maturity on both ends. That we both need to have enough patience for and with one another so that the relationship can grow to that particular place. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So real quick, Bruce wants us to answer a question. He asked, can the person with trust issues receive the explanation of who we are?
Oh, okay, that's a good one, because Now, this is a very familiar wheelhouse. But anyway, all right,
talk. Do tell.
It is not uncommon, like Bruce said, it's not uncommon to come across, especially, let's just call it what it is. Yes, men get hurt, men get damaged. But if I kind of had to kind of shake the bag up, I would probably say at some point in time, women probably get the shorter end of the stick, probably a little more, right? Now, in this day and time, us men, we got to worry about being played and all that. But historically, we were the sweet daddy, sugar talking men that we know how to say what we needed to get what we wanted. And in that process, a lot of times it was disingenuous and the woman had to pay the emotional price, right? Wow. So I'm saying that to say that means nowadays you're going to come across the opposite sex that's going to be a little broken, a little wounded, taken advantage of, tricked, divorced, lied to, whatever. So that's a common thing. So what Bruce is saying is spot on. A lot of times a man will say, this is me, this happened. And so these are my lines. This is what I need honor. Like Bruce, this is Bruce said, I need honor. I need respect. I need this. These are my non-negotiables. And look, sometimes he may get a broken response. And a broken response, look, I am not no child. Let me tell you something. The last man tried to control me. Don't do me because I will leave because you need to get you somebody else because I ain't that.
Oh my God.
Really,
oh my God.
But depending on how you approach Bruce, it could be, wow, it may be tight, but he's trying to structure his pathway as a leader. He's not trying to control me. It may sound like it, but then we got to be honest. Why does it sound like it? Because you're judging a person's countenance and demeanor and their delivery, or do you know them for real? Because a lot of times when a man is trying to set his tone, he's just doing it as a man. Because we can't win for losing. Because if I had said, let's just say Bruce said, this is what I need, this is what I gotta have, and that's it. Now I'm feeling, I really like you, but I'm letting you know this is it. Then they're gonna say he just do too much. But then if we did this, so honey, I like that a little bit, and I have some room to let you grow a little bit, but I can lead you over here. Then we're gonna say, girl, I will run circles around here. I need somebody with a backbone. So it's just like, what do you want?
Right.
So it's like, if you want the man to lead, you're gonna have to trust him. Look, we can back in Salt and Pepper days, I gotta have a rough neck. Well, respect the leader neck. Let a leader neck lead and stop it. You don't care about the rough neck, then let the leader neck be the leader neck and let him lead. You know what I'm saying? Respect him to do that. And we gotta stop, playing with where we put our precious jewels and just call it what it is. Let me say this really quickly.
No, take your time.
Woman should want a man who can look at her and see how shattered she is, but also have the ability to put her back together. You don't want a man who looks at you, your shattered self, and when you turn your back, he get the little sweet dust broom and say, and throw out pieces that need to be repaired. Because if a man is not prepared to lead you, when you turn your back, he's gonna get the dust broom and whatever shattered glass you got on the floor, he's gonna put in there and say, in the trash. I ain't dealing with that. And he's gonna take you as you are, and you're gonna continue to be shattered. But a real leader, listen, Adam can say what he wants to. Listen, Adam and Maria is a perfect example. That's right, Maria. Perfect example of this. Because Adam and Maria, you see how they discuss their ebbs and flows and disagreements like any other couple. But Adam doesn't take the broom and sweep up. He says, this is a difficult conversation. Let's have it. Let's pivot and let's move. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so you got to have the man that can see your brokenness, even if he has been the kind of man historically that have gave somebody else the exact same injury.
Ooh.
This is why he knows how to fix it, because he's done it. I've had this conversation several times, Adam, and it's like, I have said, listen, yes, one of the hardest things in life to do is to overcome wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to do. And it's like, it's difficult for a man to even display it. You can say it all day, but when you have boldly admitted, yes, I was an offender. Look, they let Saul did it. Then he became Paul. Okay. So let Charles do it and let Charles become Sorrows. Now leave me alone. The point I'm making is this: people can change, right? If all it's a person that want to change. The problem is it's easier to believe the wrong than to receive the right. We don't want to believe that you can change. We want to hold you in a place where we can poke at you when it's convenient, rather than to pull you up out of it and respect you when it's needed. That's what we need to do. We need to get to a place where we stop all this, foolishness and give people a chance to evolve. Listen, I don't care what you think you identify as certain behaviors and patterns. Listen, Jeffrey Dahmer had everybody fooled.
True that.
He was just as nice as he can be, and you thought you had his patterns tracked, and he had body parts in the refrigerator. So my point is, there's no such thing as not knowing what a person will and will not do to evolve to the situation. But what we can do is continue to whoop and chastise a person with convenient arguments, convenient text messages, convenient rhetoric that serves the victim. It's either you can accept that this person that I am with can change or has changed, or why am I wasting my time? If I cannot believe them, then I'm with the wrong person. Wow. You can't keep on doing this same misery, tumble and flipping in every instance. Anything that's questionable, anything, you know what? I don't have time. You ain't been having time. But you got to say to yourself, can I keep doing this?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Can I keep doing this? No, Demetra. Somebody got to be smart and somebody got to be able to get over on them.
Oh, my God.
That's how relationships work. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but I'm just saying. You can't have two smart people. Demetra, it's not going to work. But anyway, so seriously, though, this is just a thing where we got to keep saying to ourselves, let's peel these onions all the way back. Instead of having to discover the minefields and the landmines and all these things, let's try to get out as much of the uncomfortable stuff in the beginning so we don't have to discover it later. There is a way to get out. Each of us are with people that know exactly what pushes their buttons. Just like they can tell you what they want and how many white pickets around that fence, they can tell you how many steps to get to their heart or to get to their attitude or to their mental. Everybody can do it if you want to do it. You don't have to just sit back and just keep on kind of controlling a person in a way that kind of, it's like it's a controlling mechanism, because it's kind of saying, I'm going to sit right here, because when I sit in the victim place and don't discuss my boundaries or don't discuss my standards, I have a chance to win your pity and your servitude as I deem.
Okay.
That's the trick of it. So that's why we have to be able to, let's unveil it and say, listen, if you were the person that's constantly saying to you, you did this to me, you did that, I'm not happy about this, I ain't happy about this, but you got 2 legs, 2 eyes, and 2 hands, and yet you don't move, the problem ain't me.
Right.
If you got the autonomy of your limbs to do whatever you want to do, and you complain about a person, it ain't the person. After a while, you got to look in the mirror, because you're the one going through this rigmarole, right? And so I get it. We are imperfect people, and we're trying to make these things work. But at some point, we got to stop the excuse making and just call it what it is. We aren't being honest with ourselves. We're not having the tough conversation. And let's cut out this whole, you just need to figure it out. No, I need you to lay it out. I don't want to figure out, because figuring it out is unsuccessful to me. Lay it out, and let's stop figuring it out. When you lay it out, we can deal with it, we can dissect it, we can go through it, and we can have those uncomfortable conversations. But, well, like Bruce said about when the person is insecure, if we choose to take on somebody and commit to them, knowing they're insecure, if that's what they really are, then we, as the man or the woman who's ever accepting it, we have to exude the patience to deal with it. We can't say, I know you insecure, and then don't be patient, right? It's like, if I know you insecure, that to me, when I hear or see insecure, that means work needs to be done. That needs to be patience, needs to be exuded. Work needs to be done with this person in order to have something kind of healthy. But a lot of times what we do is we'll meet somebody insecure. And the sad thing is, if the insecure person falls in the wrong hands, you in for a whole controlling ride. Because you're gonna get stiffed and you're gonna get finessed and manipulated up and down the street, right? So that's why it's a huge responsibility in participating in healing someone, because you're not Jesus, but you're a participant. You're being used while dealing with this person, right? You like a conduit to do and say certain things that will encourage their evolution, but you can't judge them. You know what I'm saying? You can't judge them. You can't control them. So it's a test of your integrity when you're dealing with someone broken, because you have the ability to control them. But you have to be able to say, I can, but no, I'm gonna go ahead on I'm gonna go ahead and do right by him. All right. And just go ahead, because otherwise you can just mop the floor with it. So
yeah, true. Well, you might as well go and give the benediction, sir, because you didn't preach the message. Go and give the altar call. You know what I'm saying?
Altar call. There are people on tonight all across the world, under the sound of my voice, that are in marriages, in relationships, and engagements on tonight, Adam, that have not had the conversation of boundaries, standards, or expectations. They have to be done in certain orders, because if you have expectations before we understand who you are, the relationship can go awry. There is no such thing as holding accountability to standards and boundaries if we have not yet asserted and inserted the proper boundary framework on tonight. Now, how many of you on tonight I need a line? I can stand over there with $10
not just $10. Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding. No, listen, I appreciate y'all for tuning in on today. And as we went through this topic, the unspoken language of boundaries, and so it's an important thing. And that's the thing that I know we playing, we joking, but it's really serious, to the point that we need to really have those conversations. And even if we need to backtrack, because some relationships have already ran on down the street 2 and 3 years in, but still don't know boundaries.
Talk about it,
So sometimes you just need to backtrack and get it together. You know what I'm saying?
Have a retroactive conversation. How about that?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes, how they'll say, if you have that conversation, we'll retrofit it and pay you your back pay. Some of us are due back pay from old conversations that were not had.
True that.
So so that's
true that.
All right, well, that's good. Well, listen, we're not gonna. The next time we talk to you guys, it'll be the new year. So if we don't get a chance to tell you guys later, it has been an amazing run this year in 2024, and we appreciate you guys for supporting us. We are looking for some greater things in 2025. Adam and I have kind of started playing around on this kind of book idea. He's trying to show off because he got a few chapters up the road ahead of me, but
whatever, dude.
We'll come back to that anyway. But anyway, we appreciate y'all, and we're gonna we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. We want to do it even greater next year. We want to do some different things, do perspective. I'm a person that's all about improvement and changing, so innovating things. So let's definitely try to do that, and we want to hope that we hope what we're offering helps people. That's all we're doing for.
Yeah, I think for and I think I can speak for Charles on this. I think one of the things that we wanted to have come out of doing these podcasts was we wanted to make a difference in people's lives. We didn't just want this to be a frivolous activity or a futile event, but we wanted it to be something that actually helped people. We wanted to actually impact people's lives with some truth, and understand that we're not experts. We're not, professionals in this. It's just our perspective in our walking this path of relationships and dealing with life. We hope to offer some nugget of truth and wisdom that will be helpful and beneficial, and even a blessing to those that are listening and watching us on our podcast. And so we hope that you share it. We hope that you like it. And like he said, we do have some things in the works. We're working on something right now, and hopefully we'll have it out at least by the first quarter of 2025. And we hope that it will be a blessing and impact your lives in a great way, that your lives will be better as a result of seeing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate y'all, and much love, and we want to see y'all same faces on the other side. We don't want to come back next year and it's just one person saying good evening. We want to see all of you. Everybody, don't
we want to see everybody.
Don't run away. No, I'm just kidding. Much love to y'all, and I guess I'll just end it here. I guess I won't do the other side.
That's on you, bro. That's on you. But you know how you like to do.
Right.
That's like that when you get a full cup of coffee and you got to let the coffee run over into the saucer like my grandfather would do. And he said that the coffee in the saucer was just as good as the coffee in the cup. So
that's it.
The overflow. Overflow.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all in a second.
The doors of the Love Church are now open. Dear world.
All right. So, okay. Adam, I'm going to throw this at you, and I want you to try to dissect it.
Oh, Lord.
Boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Key word of boundaries is bound.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah. So when you think of bound as it pertains to Aries, what do you think?
When I think of bound, say that again. What?
Like it's the whole word is boundaries, but let's focus on the root word bound. So what do you think? I just thought about that when we was getting off the show. I was like, we call this show Boundaries, but it contains a confusing word, bound.
Well, bound doesn't necessarily mean restricted. Bound doesn't necessarily mean to be without freedom. It all is in your perspective and your interpretation of that word and how it actually applies to your own lives. Because I see boundaries as something that should be expanded, something that should grow, something that allows for expansion, if you will. If you think about, again, my whole idea of a territory or a country, that country has the ability to grow beyond its boundaries. It's not confined or bound to one particular area, but it has the capacity to grow. And I think as human beings, as people, as believers in the kingdom of God, since we're going to go there, that we ought to have the capacity, ladies and gentlemen, to grow our boundaries, that we ought to have the capacity to expand and to stretch beyond where we are right now. So you're not restricted to remain where you are. You absolutely have the capacity to grow beyond where you are.
And I see it. If I'm thinking about boundaries and I think of a bound, I think of, so basically those areas that you need to identify with your partner that are considered your lines in the sand, right?
Okay.
You both need to have the discussion, identify them, agree to respect them.
Mm-hmm.
and bound them up, like bound them about the neck and lock them in. So when you lock them in, when you lock it in, it stays with your spirit.
Okay.
You got an agreement though, the agreement, and then lock it up and keep those things in the back of your mind so that we are not willfully offending one another. Because sometimes when we don't necessarily speak on those things and kind of consecrate them together when we're talking, you're going to leave that conversation and just get to offended a month later, week later, a year later, right? And it's not to say, like you said something earlier, offenses will happen.
It will come
because we're imperfect. Yeah. But there are some things we can avoid if we think first before we act, right? We can avoid some things, and everything doesn't have to be a minefield that we discover. We can think about it, have the conversation, and even if we accidentally say something that was a boundary, it's easier to recover from it when the person who offended acknowledges, you know what, baby, we did discuss this. I apologize. It goes a longer way rather than you just having these reckless conversations or reckless things that happen. Now the person that's with you is saying, I don't know if I'm married or with the right person. They actually said it to me. So now it's so foreign to them because you haven't had that conversation before.
Right. Yeah. I think the only thing that I would add to that is if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody, they have to make the effort to clear their minefield.
Because
listen, if we're going to be in a relationship with one another, I don't want to step on something that might explode because I stepped on it. Can you clear your minefield, please? Can you?
Wow. I didn't place them out there, and I didn't trigger them.
I didn't trigger it. So clear your minefield.
Listen,
diffuse these things.
9 out of 10 minefields that are already in a pre-existing field are from another conflict.
Oh, that's good. This is not even the show. That's not even the show, but that was good right there. That was good.
It's another conflict that I'm not responsible for. So I don't want to walk into somebody else's war field and get killed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all right on tonight.
Wow. He just blew it up for 2024. Yeah. What?
All right, man. Well, if I don't talk to you, I'm sure I probably will, but if I don't, Happy New Year's to you, sir. And everybody else,
too, man.
Everybody be safe, and we want to see you guys on the other side.
Yeah, man.
All right, now.
Peace,
Bruce said it again. That's right, Bruce. Tell him. It ain't our conflict.
It's not our conflict.
I'm actually saying this to men. A man coming into a woman's life with a lot of he got a lot of minefields in his backpack. It ain't fair to be close to her if you know at any time that grenade can trip and you blow her up, right? Let her know where you are. And if she cares enough, she'll be like, it's okay, baby. Just be careful with what you're carrying. And I'm gonna be careful with you. Right. And vice versa, ladies, when you're coming into a man's life, it's okay to want him to treat you a certain way or endear you a certain way, but you got to remember, he's not responsible for a prior conflict. If there are minefields left from another war, when I say conflicts are referred to as war engagements. A war engagement. So if these things are out there from something else, guess what? Before you get to me, it is your responsibility to deactivate them.
That's right.
And if you are not able to do it, and if you want my help, at least tell me they exist.
Right.
Don't just let me walk off into the ditch and get
blown up
off of something that's not even my own fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So, yeah.
Real talk. Right. That was good.
Y'all. And we out of here.
Again, for the third time. Peace.
Yes. That's how they do at church anyway. We don't get to leave.
Oh, Lord. All right. Peace, y'all.
All right.